Hello and welcome back to my channel What If Deku 2.0. Join us as we delve into the realms of fanfiction and fantasy, bringing you the best stories and discussions. Today we're kicking off part 7 of our series, What If Vigilante Deku Was Owner of Cat Cafe. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content in the future. The author of this story is Arch12 from Archive of Our Own. All the relevant links are in the description. Feel free to say hello to the author on their profile. Now let's dive into the fanfic. When Izuku walks through the newly fixed door, he feels caught off guard by the feeling of pure uncertainty he is met with. He's been here before for dinners and for medical attention and whatnot, but never to stay for an extended period. He isn't quite sure what to do. He's not sure how long he's staying, not sure how long he can. He's here because Nezu wants someone to keep an eye on him. Yamada and Aizawa are just the poor souls chosen for the task. Don't get comfortable, Izuku. He puts his bag down on the carpeted floor and looks at Eri, then back up at Yamada. So, does she fetch? Eri scowls at him. I'm 6. And not a dog. Izuku squints at her. Oh, is that right? He muses jokingly, earning him a sparkly sneaker stomping down on his foot. Ouch. He hops up on one foot and looks at her with a smile. You know what? I respect it. Take no shit. Izuku. Language. Yamada cuts in and Eri giggles. Izuku grins and turns back to her. Wanna go to the park? You just got out of the hospital? Aizawa chastises, and for Eris entertainment Izuku does a big show of rolling his eyes. Zawa, that's exactly why I need to go to the park. I've been cooped up for days. And you know what happens when I feel cooped up? He smirks and Aizawa sighs. He has him. Be back by 1 o'clock. Izuku grins and follows Eri, who's already walking back out the door. I'll see ya at 2 o'clock. Midoriya? They shut the door and Izuku feels a swell of pride when he hears Eri giggle again. This is a sign that life is a contest and Izuku is winning. They set off on a race to the park. Izuku had a good lead in the beginning as he is thrice her age. You might think, Midoriya? Shouldn't you let the traumatized 6-year-old win? Be nice. But he was raised alongside Bakugo, kill yourself Katsuki. So maybe he's a little competitive. He was considering feeling bad about it until Eri shouted, a villain fight. Izuku nearly broke his neck turning where? And that's the moment Eri tore ahead of him, sprinting as fast as her stubby little legs could take her. Izuku gasped, affronted and proud of the tactic. He laughs and runs after her, but the damage is already done, and she places a small hand on the bar of the swing set, affirming her in victory. He shakes his head. That was a low blow, young lady. So is trying to beat a 6-year-old in a race when you're all grown up? Touché, he supposes. Push me, she says as she gets on the swing, her legs swinging above the ground. Someone's demanding. He chuckles, but he obliges. So he pushes her and she swings. And swings. And swings. Weren't kids supposed to get bored of things after a few minutes? But he lets her do as she pleases. But every once in a while he'd see something catch her eye. After a few instances of this, he follows her eye line to a few kids climbing on the equipment, arguing over the rules of some specific iteration of tag. He's reminded of the park near his old apartment and the days spent playing hero and villain with Kaken. When did that stop again? Do you want to play with them? He asks. She shakes her head. Nah. She looks down at the ground as the swing slows to a stop. You sure? He looks at the kids again. They seem nice. I'm sure. Actually, can we go home? Oh, alright. Those days stopped because nobody wanted to play with him after they all got their quirks. Okay, yeah, we can go home. She jumps down from the swing and grasps his hand. She spares one glance back at the kids, their smiles wide with many missing teeth. Izuku squeezes her hand a little like Mom used to do for him. They walk back in silence, deafening compared to the rowdy children. Izuku opens the fridge in the teacher's lounge of UA High School. He scans the assortment of food and condiments until he finds them in the back with a post-it that says to Eraserheads. He reaches into the box of jelly packs. There's only one left and he takes it for himself. As he's eating his stolen snack, he walks over to the cupboards and opens them up. He sees the various coffee mugs and takes all of them out, putting them in his backpack. He'll give them back eventually. Maybe. But for now he puts a dozen new mugs on the shelves. There are 12 Eraserheads staring back at him on the sides of the mugs and he smirks. Sneaking out of Aizawa and Yamada's apartment was painfully easy. Izuku is a little disappointed that the pro heroes have such flimsy security. He looks around the dark room. Nobody here to catch him as it's 3 in the morning. The moon is high in the sky outside. This is when Izuku thrives. He ponders what else to do now that he has the opportunity. He exits the room, using the door rather than the vents for a change of pace. He walks down the hallways and heads towards Ned's office. out of habit mostly. He enters the room and is only slightly surprised to see the rodent still at his desk, typing away on his computer. Ah, Midoriya. Nice to see you. Yeah, same. What you doing here? Isn't it obscenely late for you to be here? I could say the same to you. Ned's inky black eyes are as inconspicuous as ever. I am here investigating the Endeavor case. That confuses him. Why? You were the one who asked me for my help with it, don't you remember? Yeah, but that was just to get it started. You have no reason to stick with it. His eyes narrow. Are you secretly some good Samaritan, sir? Nedza laughs at this and a chill runs down Izuku's back. You are funny, Midoriya. No, this is not a charity case. His eyes grew cold and Izuku hadn't realized they ever had warmth until it was gone. This is personal. Izuku gestures to their chessboard. Want to play, sir? A request for further conversation, further prying. It's been a while. He hopes the principal will agree. He wants to ask what vendetta the genius holds against the vile number 2 hero. Nedza gives him a look. Curiosity killed the cat, you know. Izuku shrugs, ignoring the warning. Then Nedza stands and walks over to the board. It's my turn, I believe? Their chess game, a way of discovering each other's well-guarded secrets. There's only one rule, you must answer honestly. Izuku nods and the principal moves a rook. What's your end goal, Midoriya? He raises an eyebrow. My end goal? For what? Nedza gestures vaguely, to nothing, to everything. Helios, all for one. UA Eraserhead, Evergreen. What do you want from this? That's a frighteningly easy question, sir. Then what is your answer? Remember? Nedza stares at him. I will know if you lie. Izuku swallows. Become a pro-hero, I suppose? Arrest all for one, save people. He's cut off by laughter. Nedza's laughter. What's so funny? You suppose? I mean, I don't really know how my life is going to play out. All I can do is suppose. Izuku is surprised by the laughter and the interruption, both things very unlike Nedzu. You'd supposed how your life will go. However, most people know what they want. But you don't know, do you? You have absolutely no clue what you want. He wipes a tear from his eye as he giggles. That is priceless, truly. I know what I want. Izuku replies defensively, to which he receives more laughter. You go around town causing all this chaos, making all this noise, but you have no plan. No reason. Rebellion for the sake of rebellion has no purpose, Midoriya. I would have thought you would know that by now. It isn't rebellion just for the sake of rebellion. I want to change things. And how are you going to do that? You cut funding for the HPSC, but what is your suggestion for an alternative? Everyone wants change, but if you want to tear down the system you need a new one. And you say you want to arrest all for one? Arrest? That is a complete lie. You are going to kill him. There's a certainty to the rodent's words. No hesitation, no doubt. He is going to kill all for one. We don't necessarily have to kill him though, Izuku says, surprising even himself. If we take his quirk he'll be harmless? Nedza studies the boy. Who is all for one to you? You've killed many people in your short albeit traumatic life. Kaichisaki Stain, I've seen the tapes and the bodies. But the king of the underground, the most feared man in the world, and you what? Go soft. Maybe I don't want to do harm anymore. You are a wonderful liar. If I were anyone else I'd believe you in a heartbeat. But you don't? No, I don't. Who is all for one to you? The principal lifts his cup of tea to his mouth as he waits for a response. Izuku looks at the rodent, then to the pinned-up papers and images on the corkboard, strung together with red yarn. He's my father. The cup of tea falls to the ground in what seems like slow motion, hitting the tile and shattering into a million tiny pieces. Izuku does not learn of the grudge the principal holds against Endeavor that night. He will eventually though, and hell will rain down from the sky, dust shrouding the city. But that's neither here nor there. Heart beating, blood pumping. Oxygen cycles through a finely tuned machine, perfected after millions of years of evolution. But despite the chemical makeup of DNA and cellular processes, everybody is vulnerable when it comes down to it. Flesh and bone aren't without fault. After speaking with Nedzu, this fact is crystal clear. All for one is human, despite the thousands of quirks in his possession keeping him alive and near immortal. Izuku sits on a roof with his Helios suit on. He had been planning on doing a patrol after stopping by UA from the start. But now he hesitates. After an hour theorizing with Nedzu, finding chinks in his father's armor, Izuku feels vulnerable. He's always known there's a risk to being a hero or vigilante, but under the fuzzy moonlight, the starkness of his mortality unnerves him more than usual. Izuku is nervous. He shouldn't be. Really, it makes no sense for him to be nervous. These streets are his home. He's done this hundreds of times, but tonight he's anxiously tapping his leg. He looks around for any trouble, and when he doesn't see any in his immediate vicinity, he listens. And like always, there's someone in need of saving. So he takes a deep breath and leaps off the roof, using Black Whip to swing back into action. Here we go again. He follows the noise to an empty alley when all of a sudden the ruckus gets completely silent. He reaches the scene and sees signs of a fight. Bullets litter the pavement and a dumpster was turned on its side, garbage spilling out. He looks around and, bada bing bada boom. He snatches a white paper bag with a familiar logo on it. A subgroup of the Yakuza. He grabs it and looks in. Empty. He looks around for where whoever had been here went. But he sees nothing. A thin layer of snow coated the ground proves useful for tracking. But the footsteps that lead people here ended here. No tire tracks. The only possible solution is a quirk or illegal support gear. Perhaps flight? Or teleportation. Maybe something that has to do with the convergence and dissolution of atoms? There are too many options. He's about to scan the area when one of the bullets catches his eye. He stops in his tracks and looks down at it. Oh, you? Izuku grabs the 2 shiny red bullets and pockets them before heading westward. A mile or so away from that alley is a big brick building used by the Yakuza for manufacturing and distributing of all kinds of illegal substances. Some of which were used quite a bit by some of Kai Chisaki's employees. And Izuku has a suspicion of what the correlation could be. Izuku grits his teeth. He thought he was done with these guys. He doesn't bother with his invisibility quirk this time. The footprints shown in the snow render it useless, and besides, he wants this to be seen. He walks up to the door, an inconspicuous one because it needs to be. He glances up to the security camera and takes off his hood, showing the mask to the camera. He's giving them an invitation, come at me. He looks at the security system they have in place. A keycard as well and a fingerprint ID are needed to get in. He smiles, it's cute, their methods of protection. Puny. He raises his arm and smashes it down hard on the metal door. It crumples like aluminum foil under the strength of One for All, and he giggles a little bit maniacally. Through the voice modulator built in on his mask, he sings taunts, "Oh villains." He says with a grin, "Come out and play." At that moment red lights start to blare and an alarm sounds. I'm a little hurt. He pulls out his own pistol and cocks it. I'm beginning to think you don't want me here. He steps in from where he's busted the door down. It's too bad. The first shot comes from the left. Izuku flicks his finger, creating a huge gust of wind, and the bullet is matched in power, eventually clattering weakly to the floor with no more momentum. The man who had taken the shot pulls the trigger a few more times only to find it empty of bullets. Izuku tosses a bullet he'd teleported out of the man's chamber in the air while whistling casually. The man scrambles for more bullets, but Izuku teleports those into his palm as well. Stop doing that, you. I don't think I will. Izuku shakes his head as he grins. A second man, smarter than the first, was hiding in a room about 20 feet away. His plan was to wait and learn more information about the enemy they're facing. Too bad Izuku can hear his heartbeat and smell the cheap cologne sticking to his skin. He points his own pistol to the wall next to him. He shoots through drywall, wooden planks, insulation, and then finally another layer of drywall. You could hear the moment the bullet lodged itself inside the man's gut from the screams. Loud. A little pitchy, don't you think? Izuku asks the first man, who's quivering from fear on the ground in front of him. PPU please don't kill me? Izuku no. Helios rolls his eyes. See, the guilt tripping y'all do is just not fair. You make me feel like I'm the bad guy here. He takes a step closer. Despite his short stature, he's towering over the man who's collapsed to his knees. Am I the bad guy here, Lucas? How do you know my name? Helios smiles beneath his mask and the entire hallway chills several degrees. Helios kneels down to get to eye level with the man. He breathes in and acquires his newest quirk. He stands up and says, You don't treat your wife very well, do you, Lucas? What do you know? Who told you that? Helios gives Lucas a great view down the barrel of his pistol. I don't think you'll live long enough for that to matter. And the trigger is pulled. Blood splatters on his suit, but Izuku doesn't flinch. He doesn't need to. He walks away and goes to find the other man he shot. He has been wondering what Kai Chisaki's little red bullets do for a while now anyways. As he's walking down the hallway, more criminals come out from the shadows to take their shot at him. None of them make it further than a few feet. On the plus side, Izuku now has a handful of new quirks to test out. When he makes it to where the man he shot is, he's still trying desperately to figure out how to stop bubbles from manifesting from behind his ears. It's not really the intimidating look he was going for right before interrogating a villain. Fortunately for him, though, the man seemed more occupied with moaning and groaning on the floor. Izuku waves at him, hello? His cheery greeting is not returned, which Izuku can't help but feel is a little rude. What would this man's parents think? Helios walks in and sits on the table and They're in a karaoke bar. Izuku stamps down his own excitement. Prioritize. Murder now. Sing later. My name's Helios, it's fine to meet you. He grasps the man's hand and shakes it vigorously. The man's eyes are a little glazed over and Izuku realizes he needs to hurry. Would you mind telling me your symptoms? Do you feel numb? Like you've been poisoned? Or is it more of a burning sensation? Helios's ramblings are cut short by a mumbled jumble of words from the dying man. My irk? Yeah, I know, being shot irks me too. Izuku nods, sympathetic despite having been the one that shot him. No, quirk gone. What did you say? He leans forward. Did you just say your quirk is gone? The man doesn't respond, so Izuku slaps him. Hey, wake up. But the light had faded from the man's eyes and there were no more answers that could be obtained from him. Izuku sighs, feeling inconvenienced by the Grim Reaper once again. But quickly Izuku moves on. He pockets the information for later and continues on his search. He knocks down door after door, knocking out various small-time criminals. Not much accuracy calling them villains really, he thinks as he watches one wailing on the floor. He sighs. Feel your emotions okay? He gets down on eye level with the criminal. I want you to repeat after me. My feelings are valid. The man hiccups, and my feelings are valid. But that does not excuse my actions. The man looks down to the ground before muttering, but that does not excuse my actions. What are you doing, Carl? A deep voice comes from down the hall and Izuku turns his head and sees another gangster looking rather confused. Carl, because apparently that was the wailing man's name, speaks next. Listen, Greg, about all of this kidnapping stuff. I really think we should put it behind us. Live our lives with love in our hearts and pass good things on to all those who interact with us. Izuku grins. He loves his mood-altering quirk. But then he registers the words the newly love-filled criminal was spouting. Wait, did you say kidnapping? Izuku cuts in. Shut the hell up, Carl, and stop telling people classified information. Greg yells, not moved by Carl's impassioned speech. You know, a wise woman once said that we all should just live, laugh, and love. Of course, on principle, Izuku had to knock the man out then and there. Then he pointed his gun towards Greg. Tell me everything you know about these kidnappings. All that Izuku can think about is the fact that he is tired. So tired. A dozen children ages ranging from 4 to 11 are huddled together in the back of the cell in the basement the gangster he'd threatened at gunpoint brought him to. Izuku wonders why massive amounts of brain power and technical innovation go into things like human trafficking and weaponry. I mean, come on. Cure cancer with those big-ass brains of yours. The children are looking at him with fear in their eyes and Izuku grits his teeth. More people will die tonight. And it certainly won't be these kids. The oldest girl spoke first, de facto leader of the group. Did we do something wrong? Izuku blinks. What? I promise we didn't mean to do anything, she says, her voice high and scared. One of the younger kids' gaze falls to the gun in his hand. Oh no, Izuku shakes his head. You didn't do anything wrong. He kneels down, but it doesn't do him much to make him appear less frightening. It's the mask, he realizes. Sure, heroes wear them, but so do villains, and these kids obviously have much more experience with the latter. He bites back the curse he was going to utter and stands again. He looks to the gangster that led him here and flashed him a smile obscured by the mask he was usually so grateful for. He waves a hand and the man faints and Izuku catches him easily. The kids gasp at the show of power and try to back away further, only to be met with a wall. Izuku quickly pulls the mask down with no hesitation now that the other man is on the ground knocked out. Hey, I'm a friend. The children look unconvinced and Izuku can't say he blames them. He pulls the goggles that obscure his eyes from sight as well and slides his pistol to the opposite side of the room. He smiles weakly. I'm Midoriya. What are your names? Most of their eyes fall unconsciously on the older girl, the caretaker for when they have none. She looks at Izuku with caution. I'm Nana. He lets out a small sigh of relief. It's nice to meet you, Nana. I'm going to try and figure out how to get you guys out of here. Is that cool? Yeah. Yes, please. Nana becomes eager and desperate when Izuku explains his intentions and his heart breaks even more. A boy who's maybe 7 speaks next. They hang the keys there. He points to a hook and sure enough a ring of keys hangs just waiting to be snatched. Izuku grins thanks. As he tries different keys he asks them some questions. How did you guys end up here? And by any chance have you seen a man wearing a bird mask? Do you mean father? A small short-haired girl asks and Izuku's heart does a flip. Father? He asks as he finds the right key and unlocks the cell with a loud groan of the bars. The man who makes things out of nothing? Father? She elaborates and Izuku is frustrated but not surprised. Fiddlesticks. Izuku almost curses. But doesn't. Aren't you proud of him? Anyway, he opens the bars and closing them, and the kids stream out quickly, taking the chance to escape before it slips through their grasp. He's taken out everyone on the floor he's on, but there's a whole building of gangsters and other assorted baddies that he'll have to deal with. He pulls up his goggles and his mask to cover his face. He turns to Nana, feeling bad about handing leadership over to a small child, but also what else could he do? There was a limited amount of time before people from other floors would realize the men sent to deal with the intruder were dealt with, for lack of a better term. He speaks to the girl and asks, "Can I ask you to be brave one last time?" Her lip quavers, but she nods. He points down the hallway. "Take a left at the next hallway you see. Walk 20 paces and there will be a door. Don't use that one. It has cameras. Take another left and walk out the door that has the maintenance sign. It's what they use for the business they don't want anyone to see." Nana nods, taking all of this in stride. "But here comes the hard part. There will be some bodies. I want you to tell everyone to close their eyes and walk along the west wall. I want everyone's eyes closed, but especially the youngest's. Do you understand what I'm saying?" Nana gulps, but in her eyes is a hardened look that Izuku recognizes. A child of around 11 who understands how to do the hard things. He smiles under the mask. "We're basically twinning?" "What?" "Doesn't matter. When you get out, I want you to run as fast as you can without leaving anyone behind. The nearest police station is 6 blocks that way." He gestures eastwards, hoping that he's remembering right. "You're going to want to ask for Tsukachi. You can trust him, he's a friend of mine." Nana nods once more and moves to instruct the group before Izuku speaks again. "Wait, Nana?" She looks up at him, curious and still afraid. "Once all of this is over, don't do anything for anyone ever again. Live a selfish life. And don't be a hero when you grow up." She looks at him and there's a shift in the way she stands. It's more self-assured. More at peace. Or maybe Izuku is experiencing psychosis. The latter is more likely, in all honesty. The corner of her lips tugs up. It's not a smile. Nowhere near that. But it's a start. Without one more word to Helios, she dashes off along with the other children, and Izuku hopes with everything in him that she will take his advice. Once he's sure that the kids are well on their way, Izuku cracks his neck before walking down the hallway. Gangsters run as he approaches, either at him or away from him, all fighting or flighting to the heart's content. Kurogiri sighs. He is not used to being surrounded by incompetent idiots, as he is by all for one most of the time. So standing here watching on the cameras as mercenary after cocky mercenary is either killed or knocked out by a silly vigilante is a little aggravating for him. He rolls his eyes and turns back to the man tied to the chair. "So, where were we?" The bound man sobs pathetically and Kurogiri continues, "I'm going to begin with your left hand, yes?" The man shakes his head, and though he's gagged he can still hear the muffled no. "Please no. God no. No." Kurogiri doesn't smile. He isn't even sure if he's capable of smiling, he's never tried. But he doesn't frown either or show any sign of sympathy or remorse. As he pulls out the nail on the man's left pinky finger, the world seems absolutely dull. I'll tell you. The man cries out. Kurogiri freezes instantly. "All right." He was torturing for information. He'd almost forgotten. "Speak. I didn't know anything about your boss until like 2 days ago, okay? I promise." Kurogiri gestures for the man to continue, so in a panicked effort to keep his nail beds in place he speaks rapidly. "I was told to hand the bag to Spinner, one of our contacts. And we were told to tell him to give it to the man at the top, king of the underworld or whatever." Kurogiri punches the man as protocol dictates. "King of the underground?" He corrects. "Show a little respect." Kurogiri didn't give 2 shits about respect for his boss. But here he is nonetheless. He tries to recall if Jeopardy will be on tonight. He enjoys Jeopardy. What was he doing? Right, his job. Yes, right, king of the underground. I don't know what it was, I swear. All I knew was that it was supposed to really mess him up. The man's body racked with sobs. "Please? I told you all I know. Please let me go." Kurogiri waves a hand and a portal opens up in the concrete, the gaping maw of purpley black, consuming the tied-up man and chair. He's teleporting him off a cliff, somewhere in Ireland, where the broken body won't be recognized in any capacity if it's ever discovered. Kurogiri isn't one for mercy. He looks back at the monitors showing dozens of views inside and outside the building. He looks at one screen in particular, the one with Helios, watching as the vigilante gets closer to where the Yakuza have been manufacturing their hard drugs. He should probably make haste to get rid of anything that could be of use for the vigilante. But Kurogiri sighs. He's just been so bored. He stands staring blankly at the pixelated figure. "Come on, Izuku Midoriya. Put on a show for me, won't you?" Izuku is being watched. He glances up at the camera's blinking lights as he walks past them. Nothing to do about it now, he supposes. Most of the people in the building have evacuated. As Izuku has shown, he's not easily beaten. The alarm still blares rhythmically in the background, and red lights light up the long hallways. He smells something funky and he follows it all the way to a door. He opens it cautiously and looks around. As soon as the door is open, the smell increases exponentially and Izuku wrinkles his nose in disgust. Under fluorescent lights there are beakers and containers of all shapes and sizes. He looks at the table nearest to him and picks up a bottle and examines it when all of a sudden he hears something shatter. He freezes and looks around to see a broken glass tube on the concrete floor. He looks up and sees a man clambering on a shelf looking quite frightened. Izuku blinks and looks at him. Hello? Don't kill me. The man tries to get as far away from Izuku as possible, which is a little stupid considering he's on a shelf. He backs up, knocking a variety of glass containers down and shattering them loudly. Izuku sighs, "Come down from there, I'm not going to hurt you." He looks at the man in his entirety now, at his skin that's tinged with a little bit of green, and his outfit that almost resembles stains. It's a little odd for Izuku to see the clothing of the man he's killed on someone else, like déjà vu. "Who sent you?" The man demands to know, still atop his perch and now pointing fervently at Izuku. "Who sent you?" Izuku raises an eyebrow. "Nobody. I'm Helios I dash. I don't believe you." He sighs. "Look man, can you Jew dash? Who's your boss?" "Hey?" Izuku snaps and the man visibly recoils at the volume. "I'm Helios. Vigilante. No boss. Just here." He shakes his head. "What are you even doing here? Everyone else has evacuated." The man relaxes a fraction as Izuku speaks, guard lowering slightly. "You're not with the boss?" "I don't know who the boss is, so I think I can safely say I'm not with him." Izuku looks at the wooden board creaking under the weight of a person. "So how about you get down from there?" He looks down skeptically and eventually does as Izuku requests, feet lowering to the counter. Izuku scratches the back of his neck, feeling a little awkward as he watches. The purple-haired guy speaks hesitantly. I'm Spinner. Dare I ask what you're doing in this meth lab, Spinner?" "I'm hiding." "Excellently," Izuku comments because he's a dickhead. The man flushes with embarrassment and he begins to explain the king of the underground is after me. Izuku raises his eyebrow dubiously. His father is rather high profile, and just looking at this guy. I mean, Izuku doesn't want to be rude, but he doesn't seem like a particularly important pawn. "And why is that? I almost got him killed." Izuku's back straightens as he tries to not seem overly interested in this fascinating new piece of information. "How's that?" "Brought a bomb straight to his front door. Might have killed him if I didn't peek in to look at it prematurely." Izuku hums. "They say he's immortal though, don't they? What sort of bomb kills an immortal?" "A quirk nullifying bomb." "Shit. That would do it. So what? He's after you now?" Somehow Izuku doubts that. If All for One wants someone dead, they die. If he wants them alive, they live. Simple truth of the universe. Spinner is alive, and that's exactly how Izuku's father wants him. Izuku's gaze flits over to the camera in the corner, blinking steadily red. So this nullifying bomb. It affect you?" "I mean duh." Spinner gestures wildly to himself. "I did not know who you were before 30 seconds ago, so forgive me if I need some context clues." Izuku reminds him. "Oh." The man coughs into his hand. I was a gecko." Izuku bites back the urge to relentlessly rapid-fire questions about the quirk and opts instead for a nod and a mysterious hum. "Interesting." He looks around and then clicks his tongue. "Well, toodles." He turns around to leave. What?" Spinner seems flabbergasted and Izuku turns to look at him again. "Ichim? Was there something you needed from me? I thought we were going to do the thing where I'm a villain, you're a vigilante." Izuku blinks. "What? Like, where you reluctantly rehabilitate me into a better person?" Oh, you wanted a movie moment?" "I mean, if I'm being honest, kinda yeah." Spinner scratches the back of his head, embarrassed. Cool, I got you." He clears his throat. "Well, you coming with or what?" he says in a tone deeper than he normally uses, and Spinner does a dramatic scoff. "Please? As if I'd come with you. I've made my choices in life." "It's not too late, kid," Izuku says gruffly to the man who's maybe a decade older than him. "What could you change for me?" Spinner spits out all angst-like. "That's for you to find out." Izuku beckons for him to follow as he turns around and walks back down the hallway he came from. Izuku's hand drifts into his pockets where he still has one more quirk-destroying bullet. This is all becoming very interesting very quickly as Izuku considers his possibilities. Toga looks at the man standing outside in the cold. She recognizes the clothing as remnants of a villain past and the tired look in his eye as someone who wants a place to rest. Oh, hello? Helio said that I should come here. Sorry, am I in the wrong place? The man looks up to the lit-up Evergreen cats and coffee sign. He looks back at her nervously, but she grins. Hi, I'm Toga Himiko. She drags him in and shakes his hand excitedly. Do you like blood? Izuku took the steps on the fire escape 2 at a time, bounding upwards to the window of the Aizawa Yamada residence. He opens the window and climbs into his room before shutting it again. He looks up and language. Aizawa is standing in the dark corner of the room, looking gloomy and dark. His arms are crossed and he does not look happy. Granted, the man almost never looks happy, so it can be hard to tell sometimes whether Izuku's actions are the cause. Care to explain, Midoriya? Izuku sighs and takes off his mask. Well, as much as I'd like to say otherwise, this is exactly what it looks like. Aizawa clicks his tongue and takes a step forward towards the bedroom door. I thought as much. Come here. Izuku trails behind the man as he goes into the living room, then into the kitchen. He watches the man open a cabinet and pulls out a first aid kit. Oh, you don't need to dash. Yes, I do. You have blood on your suit, problem child, you're not slick. Izuku blinks. It's not mine. Aizawa stares at him and then lets out a sigh of relief, which to be honest surprises Izuku. You aren't gonna give me a lecture? Izuku asks cautiously. Would you listen to one? Well, no. Then no. Aizawa puts the first aid kit back into the cabinet and goes to sit on the couch. Izuku stays standing, waiting for a catch. I've known you for long enough to know that you won't stop no matter what I say. So, tell me about your night. Izuku doesn't try all that hard to suppress the smile spreading across his face. It's no use. All right. He sits down on the couch next to Eraserhead and regales his tales, censoring the most gruesome of the details still. But one day perhaps he won't have to do even that. Shigaraki Tamura is hungry. He's been hungry. After spending days staying in back alleys eating old food tossed in the garbage, he feels like he's losing his mind. Or has it always been lost? Either way, he's very close to his destination, so he fights every step of the way to not pass out. Master has lost faith in him. That much is clear. But Tamura will prove to him, to all of them, that he isn't out of the game yet. His HP is low and his teammates have abandoned him, but he still has a few moves left in him. His feet drag on the pavement as he walks to the bloody body. He smiles an unnerving smile that makes those who pass him on the street shudder. But he pays them no mind as he stumbles into the bar. Immediately eyes are on him. Tamura's smile widens, splitting his face. Hello everyone. His raspy drawl is worsened by his days without proper nourishment. He pulls out a chair, keeping one finger off whatever he touches despite his quirklessness. It's always better to keep information like that close to your chest. No good telling a bar full of potential enemies that you can't turn them to dust even if you wanted to. Shigaraki, sir. There's a new bartender and Tamura's eyes narrow at him. What can I get for you? The new bartender is a little familiar to Tamura, but he doesn't really remember those he's been allied with. No use for them. Until now, that is. Orange juice. The bartender stares. Orange juice? And what does this place have in terms of food? We have nachos? I'll have 5 plates of nachos then. Shigaraki decides and is a little irritated by the man's hesitation. Quickly. He snaps and the man flinches and retreats to the back. His gaze passes over the patrons and he sees someone he recognizes. He beckons the info broker towards him. It's been a while, Jiren. The man smiles, a slimy kind of expression, his missing tooth providing a gaping hole in his mouth that Tamura stares into as the man speaks. It has indeed. What have you been up to? I thought the USJ situation got you sent away for good? Shigaraki's eye twitches with annoyance that he suppresses. He has no wiggle room or influence here anymore. He needs to remember that if he's going to make any progress. Well, you know that nothing keeps me down for long. He smirks. Say, want to share a drink with me? We should catch up. Jiren raises an eyebrow as he lights a cigarette. Am I dreaming? Shigaraki Tamura wants to have a drink with me? Can I not be sociable? The last word drips with animosity and Shigaraki watches as the gray-haired man beside him recoils in instinctive fear. Why not? Jiren agrees and takes a puff of his cigarette to hide his obviously frayed nerves. So, tell me, Jiren, what has the underground heard about the USJ debacle? Just that it went south quickly, that everyone arrested bar Kurojiri. Smoke billows out of Jiren's mouth as he talks and Tamura fights the urge to stuff a rag in the man's mouth to stop the sight. Know anything else? You'd know more than me, you were there. But no one knows anything else. He shrugs, just assessing what knowledge is out there. He leans over and snatches the cigarette from between Jiren's fingers. So, do you want to know what happened? Jiren scowls at his smoke being taken so blatantly, but he says nothing in protest. He's a smart man. What do you want in return? Whereabouts of UA's hero course? When they'll be vulnerable. Jiren considers this. And you tell me everything that happened at the USJ? No holdbacks? Shigaraki puts the stolen cigarette in his own mouth and takes a drag. None at all. You give me that back and you've got a deal. Jiren gestures, his irritation not even attempted to be hidden. Tamura smiles and they shake on it. Uraraka Ochako considers herself pretty brave. She's a hero student, it comes with the territory. But right now on the 19th floor of what used to be the Hero Commission's Mustafa location, she is feeling very much not. I promise it looks so much scarier than it is. Hawks assures her, he's flying up and down, bobbing in the air about 10 feet away. Uraraka adjusts her hand, it's slippery with sweat, against the window frame. Are you sure there isn't like a kiddie level for this kind of thing? Like training wheels? Tokoyami is beside her looking quite green. I am with Uraraka here. Are there no other options? Hawks shrugs, looking quite unbothered. This is how every flying hero learns. It's tradition. Hawks meets her eye and then smirks. Can't do it? Uraraka scowls and jumps before she can rethink it. Impulsive. Or maybe brave. She can't decide which it is. You know, Uraraka didn't know what exactly she had expected from her internship with the number 3 hero Hawks. But it certainly wasn't this. Here she was, hurtling to the ground as the reflection of her own pink costume contrasted against the electric blue sky. She's probably going to fall to her death but feels incredible. She yells in competition with the roar of the wind in her ears, just for the hell of it. She might hear Tokoyami shouting down at her, calling her an idiot, but it might just be her own pulse rocketing through her veins. She looks to her left and Hawks is diving down with her to catch her if she falls. She won't make him have to do that. She takes a deep breath and touches her fingertips to each other. Float, 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 the mantra she repeats as the ground approaches fast and faster. And all of a sudden she feels a lurch in her body, like an elevator stopping on the right floor. She only realizes she has closed her eyes when she has to open them. She peeks out and sees Hawks bobbing in the air next to her. Her eyes widen as she looks down to see the ground not moving any closer to her. Stagnant, suspended in air. She lets go of the breath she was holding. As she exclaims, "Oh my God!" and she falls. Her tailbone hits the concrete hard and she winces, then looks up to glare at Hawks. "Thanks for catching me," she says sarcastically, but she's smiling. She couldn't help it, she was flying. Literally. "Hey, I assumed you had it, I mean you really did for a while there." Hawks shouts to Tokoyami, who remains very firmly in the 19th floor windowsill. "Wanna try next?" The answer is a resounding "no," and Uraraka giggles. Hawks shrugs, accepting the decline with no reluctance. "Y'all wanna get something to eat then? I'm famished." Dabi is about to lose it. "I'll die for you, Hawks." A woman shouts and Dabi escorts her to the exit, restraining her arms behind her back as she had attempted to lick the pro hero's coffee cup. "Oh, thank you." The blonde hero seems to hesitate, wanting to offer up his sympathies for what Dabi had to deal with. Dabi sighs, "Don't thank me." He pushes the bag of muffins into the man's arms. "Have a..." He shudders before remembering what Izuku said about making a good impression on the customers. "Have a..." "You got this, Daps." Himiko cheers him on and she receives a glare. "Have a good day." The words come out dry and Hawks blinks. "Wow. That looked legitimately painful for you to say." The hero's face turns to one of mocking. "Are well wishes your worst nightmare, sunshine? Shove a sock in it?" Well, so much for his cheer. Luckily though, rather than getting offended, Hawks laughs. "Oh my God. You're charming, aren't you?" Dabi rolls his eyes at the man and turns to serve the next person in line. Hawks smiles a little bit to himself as he sits down in the booth across from Tokoyami and Uraraka. "I can tell why you guys like this place, the employees are hilarious." He hands them each their muffin, but Uraraka doesn't take it, her gaze straying to the employees behind the counter. Hawks looks at Tokoyami and gives him a "what's up with her?" look. Tokoyami gives his own look of she's in love, obviously, and Hawks re-examines the man behind the counter. His face is scarred, but that doesn't take away from his allure. If anything, it adds to it. His eyes are piercing blue, it makes Hawks feel uneasy. He's handsome, sure, but much too old for Uraraka. He shakes his head in admonishment, thinking of foolhardy first loves. After a few minutes, Tokoyami flags down the black-haired man and asks for some coffee. Hawks watches as he pulls switches and pumps at bottles. Then he pours the coffee into a cup and Hawk's stare is apparently not well veiled because the man's blue eyes flick up and meet Kigo's own yellow irises. His heart is in his throat as he clears it and pretends like he wasn't caught with his hand in the metaphorical cookie jar. The man comes out from behind the counter and slides the coffee across the table to Tokoyami. Hawks meets Dabi's eyes again, and this time Kigo refuses to be the one to surrender. He doesn't look away until the man does, turning his body away from the table to go back behind the counter to serve the ever-growing line of customers. Hawks turns his attention back to the teenagers. So, why didn't I know the real reason you come here so often is to see your crush? Kigo teases and Uraraka flushes. What are you talking about? She refuses to make eye contact with him and he laughs. I work here, that's why I like coming here. Oh, so you also work with your crush, got it? Hawks nods, taking delight in flustering the poor girl. She's just a friend. The girl denies it's a clear lie. And all of a sudden Kigo's brain seems to malfunction. She? Yeah, Himiko? She's just a friend. The girl points to the second employee behind the counter whom Hawks had completely missed. Her blonde hair is pulled into a pair of space buns and Hawks realizes that it hadn't been the scarred man that Akiko's eyes had clung to, but rather a much more age-appropriate crush. Not him? He asks confusedly as he nods in the direction of the spiky-haired man. Uraraka's eyes widen. You mean Dabi? What are you on about? Dabi. Hawks takes note of the name before shaking his head. Forget it, I was just a little confused. Oh no, we're not letting this go quite so easily. Uraraka pounces on the sliver of possible vulnerability shown from the hero. You thought I liked him? What? Do you think he's cute? Kigo suddenly isn't very comfortable with the turn this conversation is taking. Don't be silly. You were staring at him quite a bit. Tokoyami comments as he takes a sip of his coffee. Et tu Tokoyami? Hawks exclaims, to which he receives a breezy shrug. You're getting defensive? Uraraka says with a smirk. Shut up and eat your muffin. Hawks says as he shoves the muffin into the taunting girl's face. He looks up to meet the blue-eyed man's gaze once more. Quickly he returns his attention to his table. Shit. Good God, what is wrong with you all? Bakugo asks the employees of Evergreen, cats and coffee. Nobody has an answer for him. Both Dabi and Shoto are lying on the ground, shirtless. Toga is holding an egg above Shoto's chest and Shinso is holding several strips of bacon. They all stare at him. I mean, come on, you're not 5. Toga hits the egg to the ground, cracking it before spilling it onto Shoto's skin. She keeps eye contact with Bakugo the entire time. Bakugo turns to Dabi. You're an adult, right? Don't you feel any sort of shame? Dabi flips the piece of bacon cooking on his stomach. Nope. He sighs and looks at Uraraka. Surely you retain your common sense? She simply shrugs. Couldn't beat them. She uses a spatula to flip the egg that's on Shoto. Had to join them. He gags. That is so unsanitary. He uses a different spatula to snatch the frying bacon off Dabi and scoop up the partially cooked egg off Shoto. Immediately he throws them into the trash and tosses the pair their shirts. You imbeciles have customers? He steps up to the cash register, where a long line had formed in the employees' absences. What do you want? He asks the first woman, which seems pretty polite to Bakugo. He'd asked what she had wanted after all, but apparently she didn't approve of his tone because now she looked rather offended. Excuse me? What did you just say? I asked what you wanted. He repeats, but Uraraka is shoving him away from the cash register. The hell, pink cheeks, I've got this? I am so sorry, he is not an employee here, I apologize. Uraraka speaks to the woman and Bakugo rolls his eyes. Oh, now you want to do your job, sir? He snarks. You cannot ask customers what they want? Pink cheeks hisses to him. Why not? It's not polite. Mommy, what does F mean? A tiny voice rings out across the cafe and Uraraka gives Bakugo an accusatory glare, which feels entirely undeserved. Randomly Izuku wonders how his employees are doing over at Evergreen. He hasn't gotten any calls from Uraraka about total disaster and havoc, so Izuku is opting to trust his friends with the cafe. But pulling his mind away from that, he focuses on the dilemma in front of him. Canary yellow or cadmium yellow? He holds up the two identical shades in front of the severely underpaid Home Depot employee. Honestly, man? Izuku looks up to meet the boy's eyes. I could not care less. Izuku nods, understanding the boy's desire for him to choose his color and get lost. He hands the boy a canary yellow spray paint bottle, which he rings up. He puts the bottle in his backpack and takes out his hoodie. Green with 2 rabbit ears. Zipping it up over his t-shirt, he walks out of the store. He's been meaning to wreak more havoc on Endeavor's life, and with a handy-dandy house key and permission from Shoto, the possibilities are endless. He takes a few shortcuts through alleys to get to the rich side of town where the Todoroki family lives. Natsuo is away at college and Fuyumi is coordinating some sort of after-school activity, so there's no chance for any complications from them. Things have been moving slowly since the lawsuit against Endeavor was filed, and Izuku is not really known for his patience. So when he arrives at the Todoroki household, he unlocks the door and steps inside with a great amount of excitement. It's a boring house with expensive decor but no taste at all. Izuku walks down the hallway smashing vases as he does so. He takes a knife to the fancy paintings, ripping them to brightly colored shreds. In all honesty, Izuku doesn't really have a game plan, or some goal he's working towards. He was just getting a little antsy sitting in Aizawa and Yamada's apartment. That, and he wanted to spend time with his friend. Speaking of Shoto. He takes a right turn down the long hallway and knocks on a door. It opens and the dual-colored boy is standing in the doorway looking very caught off guard. This means his eyebrows are raised a fraction of a centimeter. He is not very expressive. Surprise? Izuku does jazz hands to make up for Shoto's lack of dramatic flair. Izuku. I wasn't expecting you to stop by today. He shrugs, got a copy of Fuyumi's work schedule. I knew she'd be out today. How'd you never mind? It's good to see you, but what are you planning on doing here? Tuya told me he's already filed for the lawsuit, so dash. Wait, what? Izuku whirls around to look at his friend. You spoke to him. How'd that go? Fine. Izuku blinks. Shoto, I love you, but you gotta give me something more. Was it emotional? Dramatic? Were things thrown? Please tell me there was at least a single tear? Of course, don't you know that the Todoroki siblings are notorious for their theatrical nature? Shoto says sarcastically and Izuku laughs. I suppose you're right. But to answer your question, I don't know. I just kinda wanted to wreck his week even more. I support. Do you want help? Always. Say, are you good at art? Not one bit. Perfect. It was a Monday when it all began to come crashing down for Todoroki Enji. It seems fitting as that is the most hated day of the week. That Monday began with his alarm clock not going off. He overslept until almost 10 o'clock, which is when a colleague called him, curious about when he would show up for their joint patrol. It crossed his mind momentarily that the only person showing concern about his well-being was only doing so out of politeness, but he quickly pushed that thought aside. He burnt his toast with his quirk due to his rush to get to work and then spilled coffee on his shirt and had to change. This day could not get any worse, he mutters to himself, as one of his hobbies is tempting fate. He's putting on his shoes and was about to head out the door when he gets the call. He answers, grumbles a half-hearted greeting as he waits out the small talk, and then his jaw drops. Flames shoot out all around him, a loss of control that hasn't happened since he was a boy. Someone was suing him? After utilizing the emergency fire extinguisher, he stomps off to work in a foul mood. On Wednesday he has many long calls with his lawyer. They're arduous, full of yelling, and Enji is so frustrated that the man won't just listen to him. I mean, sure, he's a professional lawyer, but he is the number 2 hero. He knows what he's doing. It's during one of these calls when it's revealed the man suing him is some off-the-grid rando. It would be one thing if it were an old colleague, perhaps someone he'd surpassed that got jealous, but Dabi? Who the hell was Dabi? On Friday he had damp socks. He attempted to dry them only to accidentally incinerate them. He pulled another pair on only for them to also be damp. All Might was behind this, he was sure of it. When he tried to explain this clear sabotage to the receptionist at his work, however, he was laughed at. Already pissed off, he walks into the office belonging to his PR representative. She sits him down on the plush sofa as she speaks gently to him, as if coddling a toddler. Hi, Mr. Todoroki. She stretches out, then hiing the way people sometimes do when they're trying to pet a feral animal. Enji grits his teeth in frustration. What? His words are clipped and his eyes narrowed. I just wanted to have a quick chat with you. It's about your public image. She smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. What of it? Well, your stern nature has always attracted many fans. Yeah, I know that. What's your point? He interrupts. As of late, even those who admire your go-getter mindset are a little bit skeptical on the usage of your strength. People are becoming. She trails off and Endeavor slams his fist on the table, making her jump. They're becoming what? Finish your goddamn sentences. Scared, sir. The woman shrinks in on herself a little and Enji tilts his head in confusion. Scared of you. And what you might do. So as the head of your PR team, I was thinking. He never gets to hear what she was thinking because by the time she finished her sentence he had already gotten up, slammed the door and stormed off down the hall. Perhaps there was an intern he could yell at to help him blow off some steam. After a day of screaming and scorching those stupid enough to approach him, he lowered himself into the back of his car. Thankfully his driver smelled the smoke surrounding him and got the hint that conversation wouldn't be appreciated, leaving Enji in complete silence for the ride back home. He was about a block away from home when another car came speeding down through a red light and smashed into the side of the car. His head hits the window, leaving him reeling and stunned. Horns blare and someone is shouting something very unhelpful at him. He leans up, touching a shaking hand to the gash in his forehead. Dark red blood gets smeared on his fingertips and his temper ignites once more. Who? He roars as he reaches for the car door handle. The F? He steps out and turns his fury on the car crashed against his own. Did this? He stomps over to the other car and tears the door from its hinges, but nobody is in the driver's seat. He turns to his own driver, who's stumbling out of the car himself. Where did that MF go? Tell me. The driver is a man by the name of Danjuro Tabita, or sometimes when the mood called for it, gentle criminal. He backs away, hesitant and not wanting to get scorched. Sir, I did not dash. Tell me. Endeavor screams, spittle flying in Tabita's face and getting in his elegantly groomed mustache. Tabita's eye twitches as he wipes it away and considers his next words carefully. In all honesty, Gentle had seen the little rodent creature that slammed into their car, even had a good guess of the name. But he was someone who valued politeness, and while hitting and running isn't good manners, neither was yelling at someone simply trying to do their job. I saw nothing, sir. And at this point in time I would like to put in my 2 weeks' notice as WL dash. Tabita was interrupted by a surge of fire and hightailed out of that dumpster fire as fast as his attention-seeking legs could take him. Enji stalked off on foot for the last block of his commute. Bleeding, hungry, tired, and in possession of slightly damp socks, the oldest Todoroki wasn't in the mood for any games. Lucky for him, Izuku Midoriya was in his house. Known for his solemn nature and definitely not infamous for any havoc whatsoever. When he arrives at his house he steps in and his face twitches with rage. His vase. His expensive vase was shattered on the floor. Shoto dashed, he yells out, but it dies in his throat as he takes another step. Everything was in pieces. Picture frames, ceramic bowls, everything that can be broken was broken. Paintings were torn to thin shreds and Enji screams and the last of his sanity snaps like a thin thread, worn down to the last fray. In Shoto's room Izuku is taking that as his cue to leave. As he crawls out the window Shoto puts on his favorite pair of soundproof headphones, perfect for ignoring your father's cries for help and pretending like you had no hand in the utter destruction of your own home. Eri, do you have your shoes on? Remember to tie them. Yamada's voice drifts through the apartment. Izuku? Izuku, where are you? Izuku puts a hand to cover his mouth to keep himself from laughing as Aizawa rolls his eyes. Izuku, get out of the vents. He whines, but I'm so comfortable up here. Yamada's eyes are wide as he turns to Aizawa and mouths, the vents? Aizawa simply gives his husband an exhausted shrug to communicate the message, who knows. But Izuku shuffles towards the vent grate and pushes it open. I resent the idea that I need to go to school despite having already graduated. You want a hero license, right? Izuku grumbles. Yes. So you go to school. Now get out of there, I don't even want to know how dusty you are. Izuku climbs out of the ceiling and launches himself to the ground, earning himself a round of applause from Eri, who had just finished tying her light-up sneakers. Izuku bows as is polite and the four of them go downstairs. Together they get into the car and drive to UA High School, which Izuku still thinks is stupid. Nedzu knows that he's more than capable of being a hero. These formalities frustrate him. Him and Eri head to Nedzu's office as Aizawa and Yamada go to their classes. It's strange being here with Eri alongside him, but it's nice. Like bring the child you saved from torment to school day. Nedzu, however, is not thrilled with this development. Why is this thing here? Her babysitter has the flu. And why did you bring her here? Well, we can't really leave her with Aizawa or Yamada, they have classes to teach. Besides, you're a literal principal, shouldn't you like kids? I run a high school for a reason. These things are, he looks at Eri. Sticky. Eri frowns, I'm not sticky. Her statement does not hold much weight, however, as she still has glue on her hands from an arts and crafts project earlier in the morning. Nedzu recoils, she can talk? Then he whispers to Midoriya, why didn't you tell me she could talk? He looks abjectly horrified and Izuku snickers. You are a literal rodent, Nedzu. And a genius. Does a 6-year-old human talking break your small ferret brain? Izuku teases, enjoying seeing the omnipotent principal so disturbed by a girl in Hello Kitty patterned clothing. The rat huffs, you mock, but just you wait until she shows her true colors. Children are vicious beasts that stomp on ants and force puppies to wear hats. Their cruelty knows no bounds. Eri has gotten bored with the conversation and has somehow produced a box of crayons from God knows where. She is currently drawing on the walls of the office and Nedzu gestures as if to say, do you see what I mean? Izuku smiles as he shakes his head. I've got something to show you by the way. Oh? He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a red bullet. Nezu takes it from him and examines it. Interesting. Some form of chemical is inside, I presume? Injected when the target is shot with it? I believe so. I also believe it can help us take down All for One. He looks back at Eri, concerned about having this conversation in front of her, but she pays the two no mind as she continues to draw on the walls. I had found some in Kai Chisaki's warehouse a few months back, but I didn't take any of them then. A few weeks later the president of the HPSC had some in her gun. Then last week I found a few of them in a deserted alley. I followed a hunch to a Yakuza location where I found a man who had lost his quirk due to a nullifying bomb. Fascinating. Nezu mumbles. You think it would work against him though? If his quirk operates as we have theorized, then it's very likely it'll be useless. I have considered that, but I think it's worth a shot. Who knows, this may be our only chance. Nezu nods and returns the bullet to Izuku. What's the game plan then? He's not an easy man to track down. Izuku scans the board used for tracing All for One's movements. I'm not sure yet. We need to have something he wants. He wants you, doesn't he? Eri says out of nowhere, and Izuku turns to her. What? Well, you're like his son or nephew or something, right? She says as she returns to her colorful crayon mess on the eggshell-colored wall. Dad always says that he's worried that Fall of One or whatever his name is will get you. Isn't that what family always wants? To exploit each other? How a 6-year-old knows what exploitation is beyond Izuku, but he's learned to just roll with it. Nezu taps his chin thoughtfully. The sticky child with questionable views on family dynamics is right. Using you would be our best option. Izuku hums. As much as I hate to say it, I agree. He sighs. So we use me. Set a trap? We'd have to find some way of getting the information to him. Someone he trusts. Oyama? Izuku suggests, and Nezu shakes his head. No, by now he probably knows that you got to him. How about Jiren? He's not trustworthy in any way, shape or form. That makes him perfect. You interact with him sometimes, don't you? What motivates him? Money? Izuku's reply comes quickly. That or information. Nezu smiles. Perfect. Both of those are things we have a plethora of. It'd have to be away from UA, there are too many civilians around here. I agree. There's a training camp in the woods a ways away. It would serve well as a trap. Nezu moves to look at his calendar. The 28th. That day would be best. Should I contact Jiren now? Nezu nods. Tonight would be best. We have to move quickly, we can't afford to waste time anymore. This has drawn on too long. Yeah, the author has already lost quite a bit of motivation for this. We need to get to the climax of the story soon. Nezu blinks. Sometimes you are so smart, but then every once in a while you will say total nonsense. Izuku shrugs. Anyway, the 28th? Yes. And I believe this would work best as a bigger operation. There's no use trying to hide our movements. The whole point is for All for One to know about this. We should recruit Eraserhead for Dash. Absolutely not. Izuku cuts in. There's no use for him to be there. Nezu raises an eyebrow. You're trying to protect him. I understand. But don't spout nonsense of there being no use when we're both fully aware that he's our most powerful resource for this to work. Izuku grits his teeth and glances over at Eri. He shouldn't come. He'll come anyway. You know it as well as I do. He chastises you for your hero complex, but deep down you're the same. Just like you went to the USJ, he will follow you to the fight with All for One. Then he can't know it's happening. And I'm sure we'll be able to keep it classified. We've only been speaking in full volume 10 feet away from his 6-year-old daughter for 15 minutes. Nezu gives him a look and says in a sarcastic tone, odd coming from the rodent, everyone knows kids are wonderful secret keepers. Shit. Eri looks up, her eyes wide and full of what seems like innocence, but there's a gleam in them Izuku recognizes. So he asks, what do you want in exchange for keeping this between us, you little hellion? Eri beams as she bounces on her tippy toes. Chocolate cake? Izuku smirks. Really? Come on, you've really got us in a bind here and all you're asking for is cake? She frowns like he's the one being ridiculous. I like cake. Alright, I can't argue with that, but I've got to teach you more exploitation techniques. Exploitation, yay? She shrieks before bolting out the door and sprinting down the hallway, following her every whim as kids tend to do. Izuku is about to say something to Nezu before the principal beats him to it. No, I am not paying for that cake. Damn it. Toga Himiko studies the man. His poor technique, his stance that screams insecurity, and the beads of sweat on his forehead. She sighs. There, muffin spinner. Not much to mess up here, says the seasoned employee. Spinner retorts, his voice high-pitched with strain. Himiko's mouth spreads into a grin as she realizes this is true. She's the expert now. She's about to use her wisdom to inform the new employee that a touch of blood gives most recipes the little kick it sorely needs. When Dabi enters, "How's the fresh meat doing?" he asks, not because he cares but rather because he wants to call Spinner fresh meat as much as possible. There's still a few kinks to work out, Toga admits, and Spinner nods sheepishly. Dabi sighs, "Well, learn quickly because I've got to change my shifts soon." Spinner and Toga tilt their heads in synchronized curiosity, awaiting answers. Hawks keeps showing up. His face contorts into one of pure exhaustion and Toga snickers. "Still?" "Yes, still." Why on earth a top hero would settle for mediocre coffee and no security from the screaming masses is beyond me. "Maybe it's your charm?" she suggests, and he gives her a deadpan stare. Okay, bad joke, I know." All of a sudden she hears a familiar beat from the open section of the cafe. Obi Trice, real name, no gimmicks. Music floats through the air as a voice sings. Dabi, Toga, and Spinner all come out from the back to see Izuku holding a beatbox over his shoulder, his hands balled into fists as he does a little dance. "Guess who's back?" "Back again." He hops onto the counter and swings his legs over to where his employees are standing, gawking. Soon though Toga moves to run at him, almost bowling him over from her aggressive hug. Dabi rolls his eyes but the corner of his mouth quirks up, begrudgingly amused. "Wow, what a non-theatrical entrance," Dabi says sarcastically, and Izuku grins. "But I'm back again? It only seems right for a musical lead-up. Plus, have you ever known me for being subtle?" Izuku points out and Dabi shrugs, accepting that as true. Spinner blinks. "Sorry, who is this?" Izuku's eyes grow comically wide as he sees the man. Shit. It appears that his genius-level IQ does not prevent him from being a complete and utter idiot. Not that this is news though. Your boss?" He phrases it as a question like true self-assured authority figures do. Spinner's head tilts in confusion and panic. "I thought he looks at Dabi, his height, age, and I know what I'm doing, don't screw with mean expression. I thought he was the manager?" Dabi barks out a rough laugh. "Me? Run a cat cafe? By choice?" When hell freezes over, he shakes his head. "I feel a little insulted," Izuku says with narrowed eyes. "Good. You should," is Dabi's quick reply, and he receives a stuck-out tongue because Izuku is not above doing things like that. "But what about?" Spinner asks, tiptoeing around the elephant in the room. "Helios? I owe them a favor," Izuku says, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "And what an odd way to cash in this is, giving me an employee." He schools his expression to a well-practiced one of, "Oh, Helios? Yeah, I know them vaguely. Yeah, they are a little bit out there," Spinner says cautiously, and behind the new employee Izuku sees Toga and Dabi failing to keep the gleaming smirks off their faces. Izuku mumbles out a response of how he's always gotten the impression that Helios is a very mature and normal person, but nobody dignifies that with a reply. Izuku is slurping on his fourth juice box when Jiren walks into the Bloody Body bar, garnering odd stares from people with no sense of whimsy or childlike wonder. Jiren walks over and raises an eyebrow. "Are you a designated driver tonight or something, Helios?" Izuku laughs. "More like designated negotiator. Something like that. Ready to get started? Let's." Jiren orders a drink for himself and gets himself comfortable in the seat next to Izuku. "So, what did you want to see me for?" Izuku gulps down the last of his tropical fruit delight as he tries to appear adult and mature for this serious conversation. "I want you to give information to someone. That is literally just my job description." "Be more specific." "I want you to give information to all for one." Jiren's eyes snap to Helios. "What are you playing at?" "It'd be good information, no lies would need to be told. Only lies through omission." He sips his drink as he considers. "What's the info? Tell me that and I'll figure out a price." Members of UA's first-year hero course will be at the Beast's Forest at noon on the 28th of this month. His eyes widen as he takes in this information, and Izuku isn't quite sure why, but the reaction unsettles him. "And what's the supposed reason for me telling him this? And where am I supposed to have heard it from?" "You heard it from a staff member, perhaps complaining about the distance to the location. The alleged staff member had no knowledge of your criminal nature, and has no suspicions of being an accidental leak. And maybe you tell him in hopes of receiving a reward, perhaps money? Act like yourself, greedy and ambitious, he'll eat it right up." "Wow, you flatter me," Jiren says sarcastically before tapping his finger to his chin thoughtfully. "I don't know, Helios. All for one is the real deal. And am I not?" The unsaid words hang heavy in the air. "I can handle it. Do you doubt me? Tell me more about this Beast's Forest deal. Tell me why all for one should care about some brats who are still wet behind the ears." Izuku shakes his head. "No can do. Then no deal." Jiren moves to stand and Helios grabs his arm. Wait, Izuku sighs. He is looking into the UA hero course for one specific person. Who? Izuku grits his teeth. That's classified. A total lie, but forgive him if he doesn't want to reply with the truth of me. And will that one person be there? Yes. Jiren hums as he finishes his drink. Alright. I'll follow your suicidal request. For 300,000 yen. Izuku laughs, he can't help it. The demand is so mundane in light of the importance of this exchange. Yeah, he'll pay 300,000 yen to get rid of the most dangerous man in all of existence. Sure. I'll wire you the money tonight. Then I believe we have a deal, Helios. They shake hands and stand up. Neither came here for fun. Today's visit to the bar is purely business, so they both prepare to leave. Izuku grabs his 4 empty juice boxes to throw them away and waves a goodbye to his slimy, money-hungry associate, who he's entrusting with dangerous information. Jiren walks out of the bar with his entire body alight in excitement and anticipation. He didn't know what the hell was going on, but he could tell it was big. Shigaraki coming out of nowhere makes so much more sense now. All for one got him out of jail to do some information gathering about this one mysterious person at UA. Now he can trade this information for knowledge about the USJ, and get his curiosity sated. He dials up a phone he's pretty confident is a burner and lights his cigarette as it rings. Hey Shiggy, it's Jiren. I've got info about the hero course, but it's pretty good stuff. Date, time, location, everything. How about 300,000 yen for it? I know we said it'd just be an information bargain, but I had to shell out some serious cash to find this out. A lot. But Jiren is in the business of deceit and profit, so it weighs nothing on his conscience. Across town, an ever-hungry Shigaraki Tamura is murdering innocents for the 300,000 yen needed to get back his position as valuable in the eyes of his mentor. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through What If Vigilante Deku was owner of Cat Cafe. I hope you found it as intriguing and thought-provoking as we did. A big shout-out to Arch12 for crafting such a compelling story. Don't forget to check out their profile on Archive of Our Own for more amazing works. The link is in the description below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to What If Deku 2.0 for more fascinating explorations into the world of fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we're always excited to hear your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. See you guys in the next video.